All right, let's talk about further talk about chapter 2 in Better Living Through Criticism by A.O. Scott, The Eye of the Beholder, where in the first part we've gotten very heady with kind of Kant and Edmund Burke and the kind of idea of universal subjectivity and stuff like that. And oh, we're being joined by a doodle here, hopping up in her chair. And we've gotten very heady. And at the end of that section is like, okay, we've gotten philosophy, and some people would break it down with science, like checking, seeing what kind of just chemical level of like what kind of chemicals are released in our brain as we experience art, or evolutionary psychologists might go like, well, is art just like kind of plumage on a peacock made to make some more attractive mates and stuff like that, which seem to A.O. Scott, perhaps because of his bias, because maybe a hunch, maybe a bias, seems like kind of rather dead end ways of very reductive ways of viewing art. And so what he launches into is looking at three examples that kind of span different things. One is a performance art piece by a woman, Abriam Malovich. I cannot get the name. One is the other two are poems. One by Rilke, his on a archaic marble torso. I'm getting the title wrong. Oh, we also get a little bit of the letters of Rilke, and third is a poem by Philip Larkin, being an outside observer to a dance of like perhaps of and a trumpeter, and people kind of coming together that way. And he looks at these three examples. The performance artist is basically it was a retrospective thing of a lot of her own performance art, where there were videos and there were like people who were doing reenactments of her thing. But the other thing that happened is she went to the exhibit each day, sat in a chair silently, and you could just come up and sit in front of her. She never talked, but it was a really powerful experience for a lot of the people. And I think it was they felt like she was spreading love, or she was getting them to fall in love with her, in a way. This woman who was like an older woman, who I think he says because a mother brought her kid. It's like you were very brave, because she sort of looks like the Wicked Witch of the West. So it's not like she was a gorgeous, the kind of aesthetics thing there, but definitely. It was really apparently a powerful thing. And I mean, as with all these things that get kind of described or even videotaped, you do get the sense of like, oh, you sort of had to be there. That idea, Rilke going through this poem, which ends very famously with the "You must change your life," which A.O. Scott says, this poem, which is describing a headless, legless, sexless torso, ruined thing that was in the Louvre, but imagining it with eyes, imagining it with its genitalia, as sort of like this vibrant kind of sexual object, but kind of going with this line at the end of "You must change your life," which saying like that's the thing of art. The thing of art is engaging with art to the point where it does have that, it has that effect on you. It affects you. It changes you, and it changes your life. Rilke was famously, I guess, someone who had no use for criticism. Thought it was something that got in the way of art. And I mean, I guess you can see sort of artists going like, look, I'm trying to like create something, and then this bozo over here comes and stands in front of it and says, I think this is what this means. It's like you can see that maybe that's why artists can have resentments towards the art. They're feeling like people are getting in the way of the primal experience of art, because it's like, oh, it's like reading too many reviews before you go see a movie, or obsessively reading all the reviews of a book before actually experiencing the book. It's like, well, you're not experiencing it just yourself. You've preloaded all these preconceptions and interpretations into yourself beforehand, which, yeah, I don't think is any way to do art. I mean, I do think that sometimes people, one of the things of great criticism is you can go, oh, I saw that, it was okay, and then you read a bit of criticism that goes, oh shit, I did not see all this stuff, and you go back and, hey, now I can see that stuff because a critic, someone who is sensitive enough and a good enough of a communicator, can kind of communicate that to you, is a really valuable thing. But I'm getting off track. And then Philip Larkin, the whole thing of being the observer outside looking in at the people, and the whole thing of it being a dance. It's sort of it's a sexual dance. It's a courtship thing. And he talks about, in the poem, there's a mauling, which is like there's definitely that kind of animal kind of roughness to it, but all taken from Larkin looking outside of it. But him also talking about the music as an art, I suppose, like in little quotations in there, and bringing in that idea of art as something where you're listening to the music, and while it's a communal experience, each and every person is listening for themselves, and I can't do your listening for you. And though, yeah, it's like, is criticism a little bit of criticism? Here's what I heard, and telling people about it. A.O. Scott kind of puts it back to the whole thing of, look, art isn't sex, but there's some kind of primal questions that come after art, come after sex. It's like, did you feel that? Was it good for you? You know, that kind of there's a kind of that kind of timelessness to the thing of criticism and of art itself. See, this is when I wish I could have my library book on separate devices where I could read the quote to you, because I think at the end there, oh, he has a good quote, which I will put. What I'll do is I will stop this recording, and then I'll find that quote, type it out or something like that, and then read it into here, because I think it's the whole thing, that kind of idea of we are solitary beings, but there is something about the communication, the bridging of gaps here, that is the effort of art, and probably also the effort of criticism, of Rilke is very much about kind of like, it's an individual solitary act, which is a part of the thing of getting offended by criticism, I think, versus maybe a more kind of communal thing of, this is an interaction between an artist and viewer, maybe most well summed up in that first interaction of the performing artist just sitting there, and the individual people coming and sitting across from her, and wordlessly having that kind of connection, which gets taken as like, love, or I fell in love with her, or she fell in love with me. Yeah, kind of a very, very intimate act, which is the opposite of being lone, isolated thing. It's communication. All right, I will leave it there, and yeah, I will come back in a second here and read that quote. All right, more videos later.